Leave and don't come back. That's what my sister Diane said, right in the middle of Christmas dinner. My mother just stared at her plate, my brother nodded, and his wife looked away. I'm Alicia, and that night I realized blood doesn't always mean family. I pulled an envelope from my purse, the deed to our family's $3.2 million lake resort, looked each of them in the eye, and tore it to pieces. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. They thought they'd erased me. They had no idea what I was about to uncover. Now I want to know, what would you have done? Comment 1 if you'd walk away like I did. Comment 2 if you'd fight to make them see the truth. And if this story hits home, tap like and subscribe. More real stories are coming. Snow clung to my coat as I drove away from that house, headlights cutting through the darkness. My phone buzzed nonstop. Diane, Marcus, even my mother. But I couldn't answer. Their voices still echoed in my head. You should leave and never come back. I pulled over near the frozen lake and sat there, the silence pressing against my chest. That envelope I tore apart. It wasn't just paper. It was my father's legacy, the deed to our family's resort, a place he built from nothing. He had transferred it to me 6 months before his heart attack, trusting me to keep it safe. And I had kept that secret for 2 years, believing that one day, when the grief had faded, I'd share it with them again, let it unite us, not divide us. But instead, they'd use that same grief as a weapon. When my father died, Diane said it was my fault. Marcus agreed. They claimed that if I had just given Marcus the $50,000 he wanted for some ridiculous crypto scheme, Dad wouldn't have had a heart attack. Even my mother nodded, too broken to see the truth. So for 2 years, I tried to fix it. I came to every holiday, every birthday, every family event, swallowing the tension, pretending not to notice the way they looked at me, like I was poison. Tonight, I thought maybe things would finally be different. My mother had said, let's have Christmas together, just like old times. I believed her. I shouldn't have. They'd planned it. Every smile, every toast, every fake laugh, rehearsed. Diane's announcement was just the finale. When I tore that envelope, I thought I was freeing myself. I didn't know I was destroying the only proof that the resort was mine. Now, sitting in my apartment, I stared at my phone screen. 37 missed calls, 62 unread messages. The last one from Diane said, "You idiot. That was the deed." And Marcus added, "Dad's lawyer told us you had it." My stomach dropped. They knew all along. This wasn't about grief. It was about money, about control. And by tearing that envelope, I'd handed them exactly what they wanted, my father's dream and my destruction. The next morning, someone knocked on my apartment door. It was barely 7:30 a.m. I opened it in my pajamas, expecting a neighbor. Instead, a man in a dark coat handed me a large envelope and said, "You've been served." Inside was a lawsuit from my own family, elder abuse. They claimed I'd manipulated my father, isolated him, and coerced him into signing the resort over while he was mentally incompetent. They accused me of threatening to withhold his heart medication unless he gave me the deed. Every word was a lie. But the signatures were real. The statements were signed by people I knew. Dr. Henry Walsh, our old neighbor Carol Peterson, and my mother. I called the resort immediately. Linda, our longtime manager, answered on the first ring. "Alicia, thank God. I've been trying to reach you. The accounts are frozen. The bank said it's a court order. I can't make payroll. I can't pay suppliers. Property taxes are due in 3 days, $18,000. If we don't pay, the county will auction it off." My heart raced. This was their plan. They'd freeze the accounts, choke the business, and let it collapse so they could buy it cheap. I promised Linda I'd fix it, though I had no idea how. That afternoon, I sat across from an estate attorney named Bradley Sullivan. He read through the lawsuit in silence, his brows tightening with every page. "This is bad," he finally said. "Without the deed, it's their word against yours. The judge might appoint a temporary administrator, probably your sister since she's the eldest." My voice cracked. "Can't we fight it?" "Of course," he said. "But you'll need to prove your father was competent when he signed the papers. Medical records, witnesses, anything that contradicts their claims. And Alicia," he hesitated, "you'll need money, a lot of it. Legal fees could easily hit $100,000. I left his office numb. $100,000 I didn't have. Still, I couldn't give up. That evening, I drove 4 hours to the resort. The sky was bruised with twilight, the lake frozen solid. I stood outside the old lodge, its windows glowing faintly, and felt my father's presence in every creak of the wood. In his office, I sat behind his desk. His reading glasses, his mug, his cologne, it all smelled like him. Desperate, I powered up his ancient computer. It whirred to life. I guessed the password, my birthday, April 26th. It worked. I opened his email. Then I saw it, an unsent draft addressed to me. Sweetheart, I'm putting everything in your name only. I know they'll be furious, but you're the only one who kept your promises. They'll come after you, try to make you feel guilty. Don't let them. The resort is yours. You've earned it. I love you, Dad. I pressed my forehead to the desk and sobbed. He knew. He'd seen it all coming. And now it was up to me to finish what he started. By dawn, the world outside my window looked colorless. Just gray sky and heavier gray snow. I'd spent the night reading that email from my father over and over, as if the words could somehow build a wall around me strong enough to stop what was coming. At 9 sharp, I was standing in the courthouse corridor beside Bradley. Across the hall, Diane was surrounded by my mother, Marcus, and her husband, Greg. They looked like a picture-perfect family, all tailored coats and polite smiles. But their eyes were hard, glinting with victory before the fight even began. When the bailiff called our case, my stomach twisted. The courtroom was too bright, too clean, too cold. Their lawyer, Sheldon Price, stood and began his performance. Polished, confident, cruel. He painted me as a manipulative daughter who had preyed on a dying man. Each word was like a blade. He talked about fabricated documents, suspicious transfers, and mental decline. He held up the statements from Dr. Walsh and Carol Peterson as if they were scripture. My mother sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the floor. When he finished, Bradley rose and defended me with calm precision. He presented my work records proving I hadn't made the bank transfers they accused me of. He explained that my father's true doctor had retired and could verify his mental clarity, if only we could locate him. But evidence without witnesses is just paper, and the judge's face gave nothing away. Then came the question that changed everything. Miss Morgan, the judge said, do you still possess the property deed? My mouth went dry. No, Your Honor, I destroyed it. The words hung heavy in the air. He leaned back, expression unreadable. Why would you destroy such an important document? I could have lied. I could have said I panicked, or that it was an accident, but I didn't. Because they told me I wasn't part of the family anymore, I said. And for one reckless second, I believed them. A ripple went through the courtroom, murmurs, whispers. The judge's eyes softened, but only slightly. Your actions were unwise, Miss Morgan. Without that deed, ownership cannot be verified. And with these allegations, I must ensure the property is managed responsibly. I knew what was coming before he said it. He appointed a temporary administrator, Diane. She'd have 60 days of full control over the resort. It felt like falling through ice. The sound of the gavel echoed like a door slamming shut behind me. Outside the courtroom, I stood frozen while they celebrated in low, smug voices. Diane brushed past me, perfume sharp as venom. You should have stayed gone, she whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat felt raw, my lungs empty. By evening, Linda called, her voice trembling. Diane had fired her, canceled all upcoming bookings, and scheduled meetings with developers. She was already planning to tear everything down. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, staring at the ceiling. The weight of failure pressed on my chest until I could barely breathe. My father's legacy was slipping away, and I had no proof left to fight with. But under all that grief, something colder began to form, resolve. If Diane wanted war, she was about to get one. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept looping through Diane's smirk in court, the judge's words, the sound of that gavel sealing my fate. I sat at the window until sunrise, watching the city lights fade. Then an email appeared. No sender, no subject, just 5 words. You need to see this. Attached was a photo, a ledger page. Across the top, loan repayments to Chinese creditors. Beneath it, 3 transactions, totaling $375,000, labeled Greg's gambling debts, must keep secret. I stared at it, heart pounding. Proof, real proof. And a message below. Meet me at Pine Street Diner at noon. Come alone. At exactly 12, I slid into a corner booth. Janet, the bookkeeper, walked in, eyes swollen, hands trembling. She sat down hard, whispering, "It's my fault. All of it." She confessed everything. Diane had bribed her to forge my signature on transfers, threatening her family when she tried to stop. Janet handed me a folder thick with printed emails, transaction logs, and photos, proof of Diane's scheme. It was the smoking gun I'd been praying for. Before we could leave, a black SUV pulled into the lot. 2 men got out, heavy coats, harder faces, Greg's creditors. Diane must have sent them. They stormed inside. One grabbed my wrist. Pain shot up my arm. The diner owner shouted, calling the police. I kicked the man's shin, tore free, grabbed the folder, and ran with Janet through the kitchen door into the alley. We sprinted through the snow until sirens wailed behind us. The men vanished. Janet collapsed, sobbing. "She's going to kill me if she finds out," she whispered. I told her we'd go to the police, but when they arrived, fear won. She denied everything, said we were just having lunch. My stomach dropped. That night, Diane called. Her voice was poison sweet. "Greg's friends told me everything. Cute stunt, Alicia. You really thought Janet would pick you over her kids?" Then colder. "You're finished. I have your witness, your mother, your reputation. The resort will be rubble by spring." She hung up. For a long time, I just sat there, numb. Then I remembered my father's words. "I keep my important papers where my heart is." The locket. I tore through my drawers until I found it. The one he'd worn for decades. The one my mother gave me after the funeral. Inside was his mother's photo. Behind it, a tiny folded note and a key. "If they've come after you, go to First National Bank, Box 847. Everything you need is inside." The next morning, I was at the bank when it opened. Inside the safety deposit box was a flash drive, a sealed envelope, and a stack of documents. The label on the drive said, "Watch this first." When I opened my laptop and pressed play, my father's face appeared, alive, steady, speaking directly to the camera. "My name is Thomas Morgan. I am of sound mind. I give the resort to my daughter Alicia because she's the only one who deserves it." Behind him sat his doctor, confirming his competence. My father looked straight into the lens, eyes full of pride. "If you're watching this, sweetheart, they've done exactly what I feared. Don't back down. You were always the strong one." Tears blurred the screen. The war wasn't over. But now, I finally had my weapon. By the time the judge's gavel fell for the last time, everything had changed. Diane sat pale and trembling, her lawyer gone, her confidence shattered. Marcus refused to look at me. My mother cried quietly beside them as the judge declared the truth. The resort was mine, just as my father intended. In the weeks that followed, justice moved fast. Diane was charged with fraud, embezzlement, and arson. Marcus got probation. Greg vanished into his debts. My mother wasn't sent to prison, but for the first time, she faced the truth. She looked at me and whispered, "I'm sorry." 2 words I'd waited 2 years to hear. When I returned to the resort, snow still covered the ground, but spring sunlight was breaking through. The lake glimmered like glass, and for the first time, I didn't feel alone. The place my father built was alive again. We reopened a month later. I renamed it Thomas's Legacy Resort, because that's what it was. His faith in me turned into something lasting. Guests came back, and laughter filled the halls again. One morning, I got a video message. It was my father's voice. "Alicia, if you're seeing this, it means you fought, and you won. I knew you would. Forgive them, not because they deserve it, but because you do." I stood there, smiling through tears. Forgiveness wasn't for them. It was for my peace. Now, when I stand by the lake, I finally understand what he meant about protecting what matters. It's not land, not money. It's your peace, your worth, your strength to say no, even to family. If you've ever had to stand alone against people who should have loved you, remember this: you're not weak for walking away. You're strong for choosing peace. Tell me in the comments. Type 1 if you'd walk away like I did. Type 2 if you'd still try to forgive. And if this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more stories of courage, healing, and self-worth.